What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Garold Vallie here, and I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Stoke Is Real. This is our journey together. And today, we're going to talk about personal accountability. That, in my opinion, is the foundation for sobriety. Personal accountability. You have to hold yourself personally accountable for everything you do in your life. You really do. And when it comes to addiction, when it comes to um, drinking, drugging, whatever, you and I both know you're going to have times when you are alone at night. You are going to have times when you're alone. It happens. And that's when personal accountability will be life-changing for you. It will truly be life-changing for you. For me, I've always sort of been a do-it-yourself guy. The book, DIFY, Do It For Yourself. I've always been fairly accountable. You know, I wanted to go do something, so I started whatever it was. If it was doing a new piece of artwork, if it was building something, if it was some kind of entrepreneurial idea that came up, I started and continued it because I wanted to reach that goal. I was an ice hockey goaltender for more than 20 years. That is, I think, one of the most accountable positions you can play in sports, an ice hockey goaltender. Where else on the planet, when you err at your job, a big red light goes off ahead of you, and depending on what the crowd looks like, they're they're telling you you made a mistake. That's pretty gnarly accountability, and I did that for a long time. But when it came to drinking, I struggled. I struggled. I had made a decision, and it was a struggle to turn that decision to start drinking the way I did. It was definitely, it took some time. It took some time to realize I was worth enough to stay alive, that I was worth it. There was more that I had to do on this planet because when I started drinking, I was drinking to die. My story's a little different. I mean, we're all the same. Anybody in addiction, we all have a version of the same story. But I drank for a couple years in my 20s, and I knew I was going down the wrong road, and I'll share that story at a later date. But I picked up again some years later when I thought my life was over. In my head, my life was over. I had done everything I was going to do on this planet. At that time, you know, I had already achieved the professional uh, skateboarder status. I had written a book. I had created a TV show. I'd done a lot of things, and I was done. I was done, and I thought I could drink myself to death, and nobody would be mad at me. If somebody came to my house, and I was dead on the couch, that was the goal. That was there was no other reason I was drinking the way I was. I was hoping to die. That's not personal accountability. I guess in a effed up way, you could look at it and say, I'm being accountable for myself because I'm going to kill myself. No, no. What I'm talking about is after February 2nd, 2017, when I decided that I wanted to live. And that ultimately was the choice. I did not say in my head, I don't want to drink anymore. For me, it was, I want to live because I was drinking to die. And that day, something changed. And I have held myself viciously accountable for everything, everything, all the successes and failures, all of it. Because ultimately, and I have it written down, I do have some notes written down when I do these videos. Where's it at? There was a good one I wrote down, a good quote. And it wasn't the accountability is the bridge. I don't know. I'll find it. It's somewhere in these notes. But, you know, accountability is the bridge between the person you were and the person you're becoming. It really is. When you hold yourself accountable, it changes every other facet of your life. And when I got sober, there was a few things I did, little things to hold myself accountable daily. If you follow me on social media, you will see a motivational post every single morning. You know why I started doing that? because the 10 people, there wasn't a ton of people who have ever seen me inebriated. I drank alone. Like I said, I was on a mission. I didn't like the taste of vodka, but I drank alone. And there was about 10 or 15 people who had seen me drunk or inebriated on the planet. But for those 10 people, every morning I would post a motivational quote or something to let them know I was alive. If I didn't post in 2 days, somebody would be beating down my door and they would have probably found me dead on my couch. I was holding myself accountable, and that helped my sobriety. Another thing I started doing, because I drank my way out of a partying punk rock band. That's how awesome my drinking was. Totally unreliable. We had a freaking 2 records out, a record label. I was totally unreliable. In my sobriety, especially early on in my sobriety, I would tell people if I was going to call them, I'll call you at 2:04. And the phone would ring on their end at 2:04. It was something I did for me to hold myself accountable when I made a commitment, because I was the master of maybe. Garold, you going to show up? Maybe. Maybe meant no, because I was going to be drunk on the couch. I had to hold myself personally accountable, even for some things I didn't want to do. But you will see that personal accountability, life-changing, and people don't want to hear it. It's not fun. You make a mistake. It's challenging to step up to the plate and say, yeah, I effed up. I did that. I'll own it. I got broad shoulders. I'll own that. And also when you're successful, when you do a good job wherever you're employed, when you inspire your kids to be better versions of themselves, you got to take credit for that too. That's part of personal accountability, taking credit for the successes too. But when you fall short, step up to the plate and say that. Say, I fell short. You got to stop negotiating with yourself and just do it. Just do it. Again, I'm checking my notes because I have a tendency sometimes to go a bunch of different directions, and I want to focus on accountability because I think it's a lost art. I think people, everybody's got an excuse. Everybody's got a reason. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. Everybody has an excuse. And I'll tell you what, in sobriety, I quit looking for the excuses. I quit looking for the excuses. And as we're using, whatever your thing is, we have a million excuses. Day was great. I'm going to go drinking. Day sucked. I'm going to go drinking. Somebody pissed me off. I'm going to go drinking. Yeah, you probably got a list of them. You know what I'm talking about. But when you hold yourself accountable, it makes it a whole lot easier. Sobriety didn't necessarily save my life. Personal accountability did. Hold myself accountable for the actions I was taking. And for you, think about that. Think about that. What is your excuse? Why are you moving in the direction you are? Is it because you want to, or because you're escaping from something, or because somebody cut you off in traffic so you can go home and, oh man, the drive home was brutal. I think I need to get drunk. You know it. Had a rough day at work. I'm going home to get drunk. Somebody pissed me off. Going to get drunk. Stubbed my toe. Going to get drunk. Get high. Whatever. When you start holding yourself personally accountable, things change. Your life will change. I'm going to take a look at my notes again. But for you guys, what do you think? Comment below. Comment below. Where has accountability helped your life, and where has accountability hindered your life? But we need to keep it simple. We need to keep it simple. We as humans have a tendency to overcomplicate everything, and we need to keep it simple. Was it Henry David Thoreau was writing a letter, I don't know, somebody, and they were talking about keeping it simple. And the letter said, simplify, simplify, simplify. And his response was, one simplify would have been enough. And that's it. We got to keep it simple. We really do. And in personal accountability, in holding yourself to a little bit of a higher standard because you're worth it, it simplifies things. At least it has for my life. And even on my spiritual journey, I have a rad, I'll say it's rad, meditation kind of schedule. It's 2 to 3 times a day, always two, sometimes three. And sometimes I don't want to do it, and I still do because I hold myself accountable. I said I was going to do it, so I'm going to do it. That's holding yourself accountable. And in sobriety, in recovery, taking ownership of some of the things maybe you're not so proud of. But as you move forward in this sober journey, taking ownership of the successes. And a lot of times we get into service. We want to give back to everybody. Hold yourself accountable for that too, because you deserve it. You deserve every bit of it. You really do. And like I said, comment below. Tell me some examples of you holding yourself personally accountable. 'Cause I'd rather have more positive messages in the comments, and I'm sure they all will come. But you know, the truth, when we face the truth, we'll remember because you don't have to make shit up. The truth doesn't lie. And if you decided, last night to step out and go grab a drink or a drug or whatever it is your thing, the next day, if you are honest with the people around you, yeah, I did that, and I need to get back on whatever program, whatever you're using to stay sober, because it's sobriety isn't a one size fits all kind of thing. There are different ways to go about it. And I'm not one of those guys you have to do the 12 steps. 12 steps are awesome. They are awesome and they teach you a lot about yourself, but that isn't the only path to long term sobriety. You have to find what works for you. One of the greatest things for me is I surround myself with sober people. The phone calls and the text messages are from different people on a similar journey as mine. And so we have something to talk about. And we can make some pretty effed up jokes about what we've been through. Jokes that nobody else would laugh at. But finding that path, whatever it is, that's personal accountability. If you're like, the meetings don't work, well, don't stop trying. Don't stop trying. That's personal accountability. Not saying it doesn't work. It isn't going to work for me, Garold. How do you know you didn't try? But if you did put in a effort, again, accountability. I put in a good effort. That path did not work for me. Find another one. Refuge recovery, Noah's book, Buddhism and the 12 steps. That could be your route. That may be the one that resonates with you. Watching this show, that might be your route. Flooding your social media feed with other people in sobriety. It helps. It definitely helps. That's how I met some of my greatest friends today, was through social media and discussing different ways that we choose to stay sober. There's a great skateboard community in Ohio. My buddy Jeff Schill, working with a halfway house. I mean, there's no one size fits all. But it all starts with personal accountability. Owning your bullshit and owning your successes, because a lot of times we don't take the accountability for our successes because in addiction, our self-esteem gets damaged, and oftentimes it was damaged before that. It was damaged before, and it was one of the links that led us to our addiction. And after, it's challenging, especially in early sobriety, challenging not to think to think that we're not a piece of shit because of maybe some of the wreckage. That's holding yourself accountable. But as you start getting those minutes those hours, those days, and your head starts clearing. Celebrate those because that's huge. And you will see the impact in other parts of your life. So, with that, I want to say thank you guys. If you want to go a little deeper, pick up DIFY. It's not a complete book on my sober journey, but it definitely, some people have read that book and they can say, I can see the inspiration in here from the Big Blue Book, from the 12 Steps, and different other sober publications. They see the inspiration in DIFY. But even if you're not struggling with a substance abuse problem, pick up DIFY. You'll find something in there that's going to help you along the way. Uh, but never stop trying and quit blaming everything else. Quit blaming everything else. You're responsible for your decisions. And the next right decision could and will change your life. The Stoke is real, and so is the recovery. So, thank you guys. I'll see you real soon.